Good afternoon and warm welcome to the CCFM Drive. Amazing music there. We gave you some Bernice West. That one is titled Leafy. Love that one. Chad as well coming through with Tyler Time. And before that as well, we also gave you Maverick City Music. This one featuring Kirk Franklin. It's an absolute banger. It's titled Bless Me, as well as The Soil coming up as well with the song called The Joy. Taking us to 16:28 Central African Time. Happy Tuesday on the 14th of May 2024.
It is 28 minutes after 4 o'clock, and you know what time it is. It is time for Talk Time with Tina. This happens every Tuesday, and we have certain themes, certain topics that we talk about or chat about. And so in the month of May, following Mother's Day, we are touching on motherhood, different journeys, the unique journeys of motherhood. And of course, I did say before, or rather I alluded to this conversation in the first hour. And I also specifically said, mothers, if you're listening, you are doing absolutely amazing. You're doing phenomenal. Wherever you are, if you're a mother, the role that you play as a mother, maybe biological or not, you are doing a stunning job. Take some time to reflect, breathe in, breathe out. You cannot pour from an empty cup. On that note, we have two phenomenal women joining us in studio. Of course, Tina Cupido, as you know her, looking stunning in her outfit.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hi. Oh, am I supposed to be humble? Thank you. So kind of you.
And then, of course, also joining us is Hayley Goliath. Hello, Hayley.
Hi, Tina. Am I right?
Tash.
So sorry. So nervous to be sitting next to Tina. Hi, Tash. Hi, Romeo. I'm so glad to be here. How can you be humble with this one?
Oh, man. Ladies, I hope you are doing fantastic on this Tuesday.
I am.
Yeah. Tina?
Look here. It has been a bit of a bumpy journey to get us here with alternator stories and then having to get cars and making everything happen. So shout out to everybody behind the scenes that got us here, got our kids to school, got Craig to work in these 2 days. We are very, very grateful. So I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
A lot calmer that we actually managed to be here. Yes.
By God, eh? By God.
Guys.
Hey, you have an amazing voice.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
you. We love your voice. How was your weekend like and the few days leading up to Tuesday?
Well, it was really exciting. Firstly, being asked to be here, but the whole week, since last weekend, Monday, it's really just being me telling my story of adoption. I can't believe that how amazing God just opened up doors for me to speak. And I think this is the third time in this week that I'm speaking about my story. So I'm really grateful that my story is being heard. Our story is being heard. Yes.
And I love the fact that, you shared your story publicly on a public platform as well. And now, people want to hear more of your story.
Yes.
The power of just sharing, the power of media as well. And I think before you even get into that, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Belated Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you, Romeo.
That was for me, not for you. I'm joking.
And we're going to get into your story soon. If you want to send through your message, send them through on 061-798-1075. We're also live on Facebook, so you can watch us on Facebook as well. We're live on Facebook, live on YouTube as well. Tune into CCFM, and you will be able to see us live as well.
Now, Tina, before we give over to Hayley, maybe just a bit of an introduction as to this particular topic that we're talking about today.
Absolutely. So last week we were here talking about motherhood and my journey, and then normally I record some stuff and then I share some small clips. So literally last week I shared, the clip is probably like, I don't know, 34 seconds long. Look here, I'm not like big on social media, right? So all of a sudden on TikTok, I was like, what is happening? And this little video that spoke about how people are not as compassionate as they need to be towards people that have fertility issues or whatever. We're almost on 28,000 views. No. I know. So guys, please, after this, autographs are available. But the thing that got me was all the comments from the ladies and their stories and the things that someone said, oh, you're so selfish. Why would you only have one child? Meanwhile, they were trying for 10 years. They just, I go like, wow, if it's not about the almost 28,000 for me, it's about, gosh, are there so many people that can relate to this topic,
Mhm.
even on Instagram.
Yes.
So it brought me to, sometimes when you see someone, you don't know what is happening. They could be trying everything
Yes.
behind the scenes to try and give life to somebody. And here you come with your cheeky comments because you think you need to say something. And then you just, it's almost like you can set people back, right?
Yeah.
And then Hayley's story, what was so inspiring to me was, because when you think about motherhood, we get taught to think about it in one way.
Yeah.
It is you, the person, holding a baby in your belly, and then you give birth. And then I was looking at scripture and I thought, like, gosh, in the Bible is very big on adoption. In fact,
Mhm.
Jesus adopted us.
Yes.
Let's start there, number
Yes.
one. And then you have people like Moses was adopted
Yes.
by Pharaoh.
Mm.
Then Eli and Samuel's story, right? So
Yes.
even though he belonged to Hannah, we know that story. And then Mordecai and Esther.
Mm.
And then Joseph and Jesus.
Mhm.
And all of those stories, Moses changed the world, Esther changed the world, Jesus changed the world, Samuel too. And here we sit and go like, oh, is that not your child?
Mhm.
You know, you see people at the beach, you might see a white person with a black baby, and you go like, oh,
Mhm.
couldn't they get one of their own? And you know, we say silly things like that. But how about we go like, oh my word, that child has a home.
Yeah.
That child has a loving home. So we don't know people's story. We don't know people's pain. Then there was the stat that said, which was so sad to me. They say on any given day, there's about 550 kids on a day that needs to be adopted.
Mhm.
So you have people who get an extra big heart that gets to see a different way. And that is why we have Hayley here today to go like, okay, it didn't work out this way, but God has a different plan for me. So I was so inspired when, and I know Hayley for years now, but when I actually read the words on Facebook, I was like, oh, kill me now with my tears. But I just thought like, wow, how brave of you to share such a personal and vulnerable story. And I was like, that's exactly what we need to listen to today so that other people can be encouraged that there are other ways. There is another solution. Jesus hasn't failed you.
Sure.
There's another way that he can answer your prayers.
Mhm.
So that is why we're here.
Beautiful
Yes.
introduction. Well, Hayley, on that phenomenal introduction by Tina, I mean, I know we're going to touch on different aspects of your journey, so the adoption and the fostering. But I know that you also shared it on Facebook, your story. But for those that are unfamiliar, maybe chat to us about your adoption journey and what sort of led you to go that route.
Okay. Tash, it was when my husband and I we were married for 10 years when we realized, listen, this is not going to happen. We went to doctors. We had tests done and it just didn't happen. And we then sat down and it came to a point that we had to face reality. We asked God and we said, Lord, what's your way? And we then found out about fostering. We went to this home and we made application and we were then told, listen, you can have this, there's a little girl and you can host her. And that's what fostering is. So you get to host the child for a weekend. And we got this little girl and her name was Mikal. And we brought her home. I'll never forget, it was on the 4th of May. I don't know exactly what year. I'm getting all choked up here, but okay. And so we get to bring her home, and she has this little snotty nose, and she's like, and I just didn't care about anything. I just fell in love. This child was like an angel, and sorry, Tina.
No.
So we brought her home, and when we had to take her back this Sunday, it was the most heartbreaking thing.
Yeah.
Because now you open up your heart to this little one and you get to take her back and you're not guaranteed that you can host her next week again.
Sure.
So we prayed to God, and I tell you, it was tears, it was crazy, it was heavy, it was everything. All your emotions is locked up in this little child. And we prayed and we said, Lord, this child just stole our hearts, and we found favor by God. We got to host her the next week, and the next week.
Sure.
Instead of taking her back on a Sunday, we tried to pull the arms, and we got to take her back on a Monday morning. So it was even better. We got an extra evening with her. And this then went on for about 6 months. And they obviously saw that there's something different in us. And they then said, listen, do you want to host like every day, like for months? Do you want to be her foster parents? And we said, yes.
Sure.
And then, but the story was there was a mother involved. There was a mother. The father wasn't there, but there was a mother. And no matter what you say, you can be looking after this child. You can be dressing this child the best. You can be taking so much, the best care. What you have to say has nothing on what the mother says. The mother has the final say. And with our story, we got to host Mikal in our house for about 3 years.
Sure.
And after 3 years, her mom decided she wanted to go back to Congo from where she's from. And Mikal was taken away from us. And that Tina was there. That was the most heartbreaking thing. It's like somebody took your heart out, ripped your heart out of your body, and they just placed it on the table and said, beat. Beat. And your heart couldn't beat because it was like, and this is the explanation that my amazing husband, baby, if you're listening, I'm here. My husband says it's like going to a funeral. The coffin is there, but there's no body. Sure. That is the pain that we experience.
Sure.
And from there, Mikal was repatriated with her mom to DRC. And there we again. And the crazy thing is, I am a principal of a daycare. So my house is full of children. I have children every single day in my house, except on a Saturday and a Sunday. So my house is filled with noise, with sound, with children. But yet our house felt empty.
Sure.
There was a void in our house. And that was the missing link was a child.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the distinct difference between fostering and adoption.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And there's nothing that you can do in that moment.
Nothing.
As long as the mother is alive, you've got no say.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And even though, and I mean, Mikal's mom, she had a illness. She had bipolar. So she wasn't in a right state of mind. Can I tell you, the day that they took Mikal home, her mom came 5 hours before that, 5 hours before getting on the plane.
Yeah.
She came out of a hospital. She was in a hospital for her mental health. And even though this woman is not mentally able, and I'm not trying to break her down or anything like that, but it is a reality. It is, unfortunately, that is the reality that us foster parents face every single day. So, and she, even though she has mental illness, she gets to take the child with her. And you that is good in health, good home, its stability has nothing to do here. Has no say here. Stability has no say here. As cruel and as cold as that sounds, stability has no say in this matter.
Yeah. I think before I give over to Romeo, because we want to touch on the challenges that you briefly mentioned, have a look at our YouTube page as well as our Facebook page. Perhaps this is something that you relate with. Perhaps you are in the process of adopting or even fostering. Let us know, 061 798 1075. We're talking to Hayley, who's of course sharing her journey of adoption. That is Hayley Goliath, and she's just shared I think the bits and pieces of fostering, and we're going to touch on some of the challenges, both from your perspective and even the foster child.
Okay, so application. Firstly, for this whole journey, it's a journey. So application is one of the most craziest things, because you apply, you get to visit a home, or what we did in our cases, we made application with a home.
Right.
The home then sent us to a social worker. The social worker then comes and does this interview, and they ask you questions for an hour to 2 hours. They ask you questions, and then they come and do the home inspection. So you need to make sure that everything is in place
Mm.
when you do this. You need to make sure that your paperwork, your yes is your yes, your no is your no. Every T needs to be, it's very, it's tiring.
Yeah.
The applications that you need to go through. Then they do the whole come and visit you and they come and check your house out. Then you need to wait.
Sure.
Then you have to wait. So you constantly in this work mode, if I may say it that way. You constantly have to think. And in the and Tash and Romeo, one of the things that you when you do this application, you constantly ask yourself, am I worthy?
Sure.
Am I worthy to be even called a mom?
Mm.
Because now you already have this in your body that your body's not working with you. Now you have to do paperwork, and your paperwork is like, because they're asking you questions, and
Criteria.
you constantly asking yourself, am I ready?
Sure.
Am I doing the right thing? Am I, and then you get the thing that you then presented with the child.
Mm.
And in our case, we were lucky that we fell in love with our child, both our children. We didn't care how you looked, what color you were, what race you were. We fell in love because we knew our hearts, and our hearts were ready to love.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I going in the right direction?
Yes.
Okay. And then you get the child, and you then, now you need to also connect with somebody that doesn't come from you, So you might have a child with a different personality that is not the same as yours.
Wow.
And we thank God both our children had our personalities,
Sure.
kind of thing. So it's all of that. And in our case, we had a little Congolese girl. She was born in South Africa, but both her parents were Congolese. So we had this little beautiful angel, my chocolate child. And you mentioned something earlier on. I think it was Tina that mentioned we went once to the mall. We went to the mall, and I went to buy Mikhail some booties, and I had her on my arm, and her hair wasn't like my hair.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of looks like my husband because my husband is dark skinned.
Right.
And this one lady in front of us looked at me, and she looked at my husband, and then she looked at Mikhail. And she actually did this with her eyes.
The questions with the eyes already.
Yeah. And I said to her, don't worry, she's ours. that was just, that just came out, kind of thingy. So with adoption is all of that. Race doesn't matter if your heart is ready.
Yeah.
Then you get that thing. And with fostering, remember this thing about fostering, that child is never yours. It's the state's.
Sure.
You also need to come to realization of that fact. This child is not mine. I need to go every 2 years. I need to go to court, and I need to go and sign a paper to say it's okay. I will babysit this child for another 2 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the best explanation that I can give you. So every 2 years you need to go, and what you do is you get a court order, and then you need to sign off. No, it's okay. We still willing to look at willing.
Yeah. So it's a process.
It's a process.
It's a process.
Until you decide, until the state says to you, this child is available for adoption.
Yeah.
That's the process.
And let's fast forward to that process. The state then calls you, and the state says this child is available for adoption.
Yes.
What was the feelings like in the room, and what was the next step from there?
Okay, for us, fortunately for us, with Judah, when Mikhail left, can I just go into that quickly? With Mikhail, when Mikhail left, so there that battle was lost. Our hands were up in the air. She's gone to Congo. 5 years later, so we were without a child in our house for 5 years, and we said, Lord, there's silence in our house. That void needs to be filled somehow. And we then, I'm not sure if you know Hannah's Place of Safety. We went there, and we checked out if there's any babies there. And unfortunately, at that time, there was no babies available for adoption. And this was a prayer that we said to God. We said, Lord, we don't want a mother. We don't want a father in this situation. We don't even want a grandma and a grandpa. We want nobody. This child needs to be alone. Lord, we want this child to be up for adoption. We don't want to go through this fostering thing for too long. We want this child for adoption. And God is as faithful as our God is. We get a call and says, Hayley, I was on a ladies' camp. I get a call saying, Hayley, there's a little boy that needs a home. I said, we've got a home.
Sure.
And I said, I don't care. I went home. I said to my husband, listen, we got a call. We need to go tomorrow. There's a little boy. Are you up? He says, let's do this, girl. Kind of thingy. And we went. And the first thing I asked is there a mom? Is there a dad? No.
Sure.
Is there grandma, grandpa? Yes, there is, but in the Eastern Cape, that's far enough. That's fine.
Sure.
Let's go.
Mm.
Met this little boy. They bring this boy in. Okay, I'm going to say something in Afrikaans. Buck pinkies, little.
Like
I know. And he's got a little
legs.
No. His legs is like cowboy legs. When you.
Brackets.
Yes.
Okay.
Bracket legs. There we go. Buck pinkies. Okay, so I can say in English now. Bracket legs. Okay, and he's got this little fold in his ears, and when he comes in with his teacher at that time, and I just said, oh God, he's mine, and we then got him, and the blessing of it all was that he was alone, and he was up for home, not visits,
Adoption.
He is no, still fostering. You still need to go for fostering. You can't just adopt immediately.
Yes.
You first need to foster a child for at least 2 years, and then. So we get this little boy. We go to the judge, and we walk in, and Judah's on my husband's arm, and the judge looks at Etienne, and he looks at the boy, and he looks at my husband. He says, "Mr. Goliath, are you sure this is not your son?" That's how they look similar. They've got the same nose, same. Isn't God amazing?
Wow.
Isn't God amazing? And and then we got Judah, and at that same day, and I think we only had him for 2 months, and I asked the judge, "Sir, is this little boy up for adoption with all the paperwork?" And he says to me, "Start the process immediately."
Wow.
And okay, please don't get too excited. It's 4 years later, and now we started, because now that we got a call, actually when we came back from our cruise, the social worker and said, "Mrs. Goliath, this boy might be yours at the end of the year." So
big party.
it's gonna be the biggest, and I know that CCFM is gonna be there. So yes, so we send our paperwork, and it's amazing. So yes, and
I can't imagine. The waiting, first of all, the waiting period and all of that, not
Mhm.
just for you, the family, but even the child, because the child has this hope.
Tash,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so there's this hope,
Mhm.
and you don't know the outcome. You've just got to pray and hope.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's exactly it. Tash, if I can just share with you something. So we went on the MSC cruise now March month, and we wanted our son to go with. And because he is still in the system,
Right.
we need to get permission from the Department of Social Development. We need to get permission from the High Court to take him along. We started our process last year, August month. We started our process. Our trip was on the 22nd of March. We got his papers, his passport, his actual passport. We only got on the 18th of March.
Yeah.
We had to take care of paperwork. It caused us to run in and out of offices into high courts just to get a passport for a child. And the thing is, and that made us realize again that because he's not ours, we can't just make application for passport as normal. We had to go and sit in queues. We had to go and sit everywhere just for paperwork.
Sure.
But we got it done, and God came through for us on the 11th hour, and he went on the trip and had a good time.
I just want to quickly touch on something that you write here before we quickly move on to the last question. It says, now in my life, because I can tell you, if this process had to happen when I was in my late 20s or early 30s, depression would have had full hand, because this process is really not for the faint-hearted. But can I also say that as an awaiting adopting parent, you also have the possibility of the biological parent stepping in on the 11th hour.
Yes.
And you lose the possibility, and you experience the same pain as a parent losing a child due to stillborn or miscarriage. No, the pain is heavy for me. And this was when you were referring to the daughter, Mikal, as well.
Yes.
And you see that part when you were mentioning if it had happened to you earlier on, it would have been a totally different story.
Would have been totally
but
different.
you were able, and God was able to strengthen you as a couple to endure, you know, the waiting And it was all worth it towards
Yeah.
the end.
It was, and it is. Romeo, if I may just say something on that. This afternoon, I said to my husband, "Isn't it amazing? The older you get, the how awesome your relationship becomes with God." Because I can tell you now, if I had to do this in my 20s, one of many things would have happened: depression, anxiety. I can even guarantee you, divorce would have happened
Mm.
because for a woman to find out that she cannot have a child, the guy is going to say, I'll go to someone else. Reality. But I thank God for my husband that, I mean, both him with me with him, we stuck together, and that happens in the years as you mature,
Yeah.
as things happen. So yeah, we are really thankful to God for that.
Tasha, there's a comment coming through there. Before you read it, I love that verse you share, Ephesians 1 verse 5. He predestined us for adoption as sons through Jesus
Yes.
Christ, according to the purpose of his will. God's adoption of us was initiated by God himself.
Yes.
The first act, and the decision to make us his children was made before either we or even the world
Yes.
existed.
Sure.
Yes.
We're chatting to Hayley Goliath, sharing her motherhood journey. And as we mentioned, in the month of May, we will be touching on various and different motherhood journeys. This one is from Desiree. She says, "Good evening, Tash and Romeo. I can relate to Hayley. I raised my adopted child from 3 years until 10. He was taken away from me. It was a part of me that was taken away. I couldn't sleep for a month. But I know he will come to, and he did after a few years. And today he's a married man with 3 beautiful kids. Thank God he answered my prayers."
Yes. Yes.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. You want to
Thank
touch on
you.
that quickly? Oh, you go.
Sorry.
You want to respond to that before we go to the next question?
Yeah. Look, I'm sorry, firstly, that she had to experience that. And you know what? The beautiful thing is that I believe that that child that you fostered will never forget.
Yeah.
They will never forget what you placed in their hearts. And when Mikhail left, I had this dream, and I want to share this dream, and I want to encourage whoever goes through this. I had this dream that one day I heard a knock on my door, and I'm thinking, okay. And in my dream, I'm gray. I've got gray hair. Baie oud gewees. And I come down my stairs and I open the door, and in front, when I open this door, stand this beautiful black, tall girl, braided hair, and she says, "Mommy, I'm home." That is the peace that I have in my heart, that I will see Mikhail again. And the beautiful thing is that I didn't lose. Okay, I still have contact with the family in DRC. That's the nice thing. So I can ask, how is she doing right now? Just the one uncle that she's living with is not able to communicate the way that we would like him to. But I believe that we still have the connection, and I believe that that connection is only by the grace of God.
Yeah.
So don't give up. I believe that somehow, some way, God is going to make it available for you to meet that child again, if it's in God's plan.
Sure. That's
Yes.
so in line, because that was my next question.
Yeah.
So I was going to share
Yes.
encouragement. Yeah.
Yes.
But thank you so much for your story, Hayley. And I know that it is on Facebook. I mean, people
Yes.
can go and witness it themselves.
Mhm.
Tina, any words that you want to say just before we say goodbye?
Look, besides trying to hold back the tears and be professional here in the studio, all I hear in Hayley's story and people like Hayley is love. That's all I hear in a capacity that some of us are not maybe made to have. That God gives capacity to certain people to be able to handle giving the love away with the chance that the child will be gone. But like Hayley said, the stuff that you plant, that you in place, that you entrench, it will never ever leave them. When they leave, heartbreaking. I cannot even imagine the pain. But I just hear love. I just hear like you have love to give, and there's children out there that is longing for someone to just say yes, even though the process is so hard and just paperwork and the system of it. But there's someone whose life you will change forever if you are willing to take the hard road. So I just shout out to Hayley and everybody that takes this road, because it takes a certain type of person or persons. So God bless you, and those children's lives will be changed forever.
Absolutely. I simply echo Tina's words.
Yes.
And Wow, thank you for
Whew.
your story. Thank you for your
Absolute
vulnerability
pleasure.
and allowing us, just a page out of your book and what it is
Mm.
that you've had to, go through, and I guess the authenticity about your journey. That was Hayley Goliath, and as we mentioned, we're touching on various topics around motherhood and speaking to different and phenomenal women that get to share their stories. In a bit, we have a few bills to pay, and then we have a couple of messages to read. As mentioned, you can keep sending through those messages if you want to just send a message to Hayley or just share your story on the adoption process. And then, of course, news at 5 with